Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I want to try this without a microphone. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, very good. All right, well, I'm thrilled to be here today, and hopefully an hour from now, you'll be happy at least that you came here, okay? That's what I'm hoping for. So I would like to have some dialogue here today. I don't want this to be Chip standing up here talking for an hour and then you go someplace, okay? So I'm interested in your questions, I'm interested in your thoughts. I think most of you are business students here, am I right? Business students, okay. I do not have a business degree. I have an engineering degree, did a couple of business courses, but I do have 40-some years of working in the business world and all the crazy ups and downs that happen over a 40-year time period. So maybe we can learn some stuff from each other today. So I want to ask a question and have a show of hands here. How many of us know of companies where it's kind of a cutthroat environment? The owners are trying to make as much money as they can and pay their employees the smallest amount that they can. The employees are trying to get as much money as they can without working too hard, et cetera, et cetera. How many of us know of or worked in companies like this? Oh yeah, most of us, all right? I see some shaking of heads. That's probably somebody who worked in a company like this. I don't know. How many know of companies where it's a great team environment? Everybody works together, there's openness, there's honesty, really work hard to take care of the customers, and to the degree that there's success, everybody shares in that success together. How many know of or have worked in companies like that? Not as many hands. Whoa, what does this mean? Well, I have worked in the whole range of companies over these 40 years. As a matter of fact, after, well, I don't know, maybe 18 years of working, I decided, you know what? There's a better way to do it than all these other companies out here. I didn't really find the kind of company I wanted to work at, so I figured, well, I may as well start one. And starting that company and moving forward from there and just trying to be that second kind of company, okay? So I'll tell you a couple stories from these past 25 years at Cargas Systems, and please ask questions or make comments as we go. But let's just talk a little bit about what we've learned in our first 25 years at Cargas. So I should probably put some things in perspective here. So let's just try to get our minds around Cargas Systems. Okay, we're a software company. What does that mean? So let's take a look at that a bit here. So if I can get this to work, let's see. We're having. There we go. So when I'm asked the question, what is Cargas? Here's my short answer, all right? There's a way longer answer, but here's the short answer. We're an employee-owned software company with 54 employees, all right? So let's just kind of break that into pieces. And we'll start, employee-owned software company with 54 employees. Well, we'll start at the easy end of the spectrum. 54 employees, that gives you some idea of how big we are. Or maybe I should say I, 25 years ago, we were one employee. Yours truly in the corner of the bedroom. So we've gone from 1 to 54 employees over a 25-year time period. So we're not 5 employees. There's a kind of whole different feel with a 5-employee company. But then again, we're not 500, 5,000, 50,000 employees either. Although we do have, different levels of leadership. So there's a bit of complexity that gets into a company once it gets to 50-some employees. We're a software company, all right? Well, there's all sorts of software out there, right? In pretty much everything. I mean, we have all sorts of software in our pockets here with our cell phones. I dropped mine one time. My contract's almost up. I'm going to get the new iPhone very soon. But in the meantime, this one's still working. So we have software all over the place, but what kind of software does Cargas do? Well, we do business software. It's kind of the non-sexy part of the software spectrum. Accounting, inventory control, those kind of things, customer relationship management. And we do this in two ways. One is we sell software that other people design, companies like Microsoft, you may have heard of them. We sell their accounting and business management software. And we do customization, consulting, help companies, mostly mid-sized companies, help them implement that software. And then also, we have developed our own software. About 8.5 years ago, we started down this path. We felt we had too many eggs in the Microsoft basket, and we wanted to control our own destiny a little bit more. So we started developing software for companies that deliver heating oil and propane. And obviously, those companies are very busy right now with the cold weather. So we have a full-blown business management system for those types of companies. And just about everybody in the organization uses our software. The drivers have our software on tablet PCs in their trucks, the service technicians, all the folks in the back office. So that's the kind of software we do. So we've talked about size, we've talked about software company, and we are an employee-owned company. And that just kind of scratches the surface of what kind of company we are. And so it's back to what I said before, we just try to be the kind of company that has that team environment, great place to work, and we were fortunate enough to be selected to be on the 100 best places to work in Pennsylvania 8 times so far, and we were picked as the #1 medium-sized company in 2006. So we really work hard at trying to be that great place to work and trying to share the success that we have broadly, okay? So that's a little bit of what we do. If you want to know a little history of how we got to this point, I'll start back when I was in college, which was back in the 1960s. I think there are a couple people in this room that were alive in the 1960s, maybe only one. Maybe I'm we've had 2 that were, 3, 4. We have 4 people that were alive in the 1960s. Did the rest of you read about the 60s in history or anything like that? You know anything about it? It was a time of change, upheaval, When I was a little kid in the 1950s, it was all about listen to authority, it wasn't think for yourself that much. And then in the 60s, it was more like, power to the people. People should be able to think for themselves. We don't need to always listen to authority. And so there was a lot of turmoil going on. And in the midst of that turmoil, I ended up going to college to become an engineer. I like math and science. It seemed like a cool thing to do at the start of college. And then partway through, it's like, is this meaningful enough? I'm kind of caught up in the whole 60s environment. And so by the time I graduated, I thought, well, maybe I could be a teacher. So couldn't get a teaching job, though, because I didn't study to be a teacher. So I ended up getting an engineering job. And you know what? I really enjoyed the job, but some of the dynamics in the company, the secrecy, the lack of teamwork, and this was back in a time when there was a whole lot more of that than there is today in general in business. But for the first, decade at least of my career, it was like, all right, there's got to be a better way than this. So I just kept taking mental notes of, gee, what would a good company do if you could design the perfect company here? So I kept taking mental notes, and then I actually took notes, and then after a while it was, well, when I start a company, this is what I want to have happen. So finally, at age 41, I said, all right, the time is now. Here we go. Cargas Systems is born in the corner of a bedroom. So that's kind of the start of the whole thing, and we've had our ups and downs and fits and starts here over 25 years, but largely it's been, the general trend has been growth and moving forward and really trying to live these values. So that's one way to answer what is Cargas. Another way to answer the question is to say it's really our people. Yeah, we have a cool building. Yeah, it's got solar panels. We do have a bike rack in the lobby for those of us who like to ride our bicycles to work. We have showers. We have physical stuff like that. But really what the company is the company is people. And here's our team. We're pretty casual. I see a bunch of ties around here. I thought, gee, I thought this is way more dressed up than I am when I go to work. Usually I'm in jeans and, you know, summertime it's shorts. Well, I have shorts on in this picture. We're a pretty casual kind of company, but really our company is our people. And, but yet, you know, people change, people come and go, and one of the things we think about is being around for generations, literally. I mean, we've been around, you could say, for one generation so far, but our goal is to be around for many generations. So I guess another way of answering the question, what is Cargas, is to say we're really about our values, because those are the things that don't change. This idea of shared success, this is what we call our purpose. We call our purpose shared success. So the whole idea is, you know, employees working together, providing things of value to customers. And in the early going, we could provide things of value, but we had a hard time finding the exact spot where there was so much value to the customer that they'd pay us enough to cover our costs and maybe then some. So a lot of our business has been about where can we provide value to our customers in such a way that they'll pay us not only enough to cover the basic expenses, but to also have enough to share in terms of we have profit sharing, we have a bonus plan, and also we love to share things with our community as we become more successful. So the whole idea is structure this business so that to the degree that we have success, it kind of raises the level of everybody, you know? As they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. We try to design our business so that it operates this way, so that when we are humming, our customers are getting great value. We as employees are sharing financially in that success. We're also sharing in the fun that it is to be a successful organization and know you're doing good work for customers. We have employee ownership. 70% of us actually own stock in our company. So, you know, we share in terms of being owners as well. We have key partners. Microsoft is still a key partner of ours. We buy a lot of software from them, which we resell to our customers, and you know, we look to maintain that strong relationship. And then our community, you know, we do a big fundraiser every year. We do a lot of other smaller things in the community. For the big fundraiser, it's called Spring Rendezvous. It's coming up April 5th. You can go out on our website and see about that. But we pick an organization, a local organization that's doing some great work. This year we're benefiting Milagro House down in Lancaster for our fundraiser. So that's the general structure here it's the founding concept of our company, and it's the starting point for all of our decisions. So let me pause there. Let me take a couple questions. Give me a chance to get a drink of water here. You know, or any comments, or, you know, because I'd like the rest of our time here together to be what you want to talk about. I've got a handout that I can kind of follow through and kind of go over some things there. But questions so far? Yes?
You said you're an employee-owned company. I'm sure as you started to grow, like you hired one, hired two, hired three, but when did you decide to make it an employee-owned company, and how did you go about doing that?
It started about 10 years in, and we were only about 15 employees at the time. And we had done what I think I would consider sort of laying the groundwork, laying the kind of the framework for being able to be an effective employee-owned company. That is, we were open book management. We've done that from the beginning. So basically, we share all the plans, the goals, the financial results, the sales, the problems, very honestly with everybody. About the only things that are confidential are individual compensation and, you know, individual HR kind of things that we keep confidential. So we had the openness thing going. We had collaboration going. So, you know, we were working as a open collaborative team. We had success sharing in other forms, financial forms, with profit sharing and bonus. And I went to a Lancaster Chamber of Commerce event back in, I guess, I don't know, it was maybe 16 years ago, and heard a guy speak. His name is Yale Eastman. He was the founder of a company called Thermocore in Lancaster, and he was just talking about how wonderful employee ownership was at their company. And it was like, bingo, Chip, this is kind of the ultimate expression of the founding concept of Cargas Systems. So over the next year, you have to talk with accountants and lawyers and kind of figure out how do you make this simple enough for a little tiny 15-person company. But within a year, we figured that out, and then we just opened it up to all employees to be able to buy stock. We made buying stock very easy, kept a very minimum low, kind of a low minimum purchase, kept it right around $600. We did payroll deduction, so you do $25 per pay period for a year in payroll deduction. You can buy the minimum amount. And we rolled it out, and right from the get-go, we had like 40% of our employees sign up. So that's how we got into it. But I guess the key point is, it comes back to the founding concept, shared success, and it's like, oh, employee ownership, that is an expression of the founding concept.
And how has that affected your company culturally, financially, stuff like that? And are there any downsides to doing that?
It's been mostly upsides. I'll tell you about the downsides first. The world of business can be a tumultuous thing. It can be like a roller coaster sometimes. And sometimes events outside your control can throw your business into a tailspin. Back after 9/11 in 2001, we didn't have near as many customers as we have today. So we didn't have a lot of ongoing work with existing customers. So a lot of what we need to do was sell new big projects to new customers, putting in new accounting systems and things like that. Well, right at 9/11 in 2001, you have the World Trade Center, you have all this stuff going on. Nobody knew, is this just the first of many waves? What's going on? So guess what? Businesses just stopped buying major purchases, and we didn't sell any new projects for 6 months. So what happened was, through a lot of turmoil, we ended up, at the time we were 35 employees, and 6 months later we were down to 18 employees. And some people left on their own accord. Unfortunately, we had to have layoffs. And so we had roughly half of our employees leaving the company over a 6-month period after 9/11. And so this was a good news, bad news thing as it relates to employee ownership. On the one hand, we didn't have the legal obligation to buy the stock back when people left, but we, the company, had the right to buy employee stock back. We wanted to buy their stock back because we wanted everybody to be confident that you could sell your stock if you wanted to, needed to. And so we ended up buying back stock at a time when we had a whole lot of financial pressure on us. So that was really, really hard. The flip side of that, though, and it more than compensated as far as I'm concerned, the flip side is the people who really, really believed in this concept of shared success, that really believed in our company, that really wanted this company to survive and keep going because they can't imagine working in another place, they stayed, okay? So we ended up with 18 awesome people, highly motivated, who were voluntarily taking pay cuts and just doing what it took to get through this. So those are kind of the extremes of downside and upside, I would say, with employee ownership. But in a more stable environment, which we've had since then, fortunately, in a more stable environment, it's just a very much of a reinforcement of this whole culture this shared success culture that we put together, and it can be pretty much anything for anybody. I mean, we always say to our employees, the most important thing is to think and act like an owner. That's the one thing that's absolutely required at our company. You know, when you come in, you're expected to think and act like an owner. Actually, being an owner is optional. Now, 70% of our employees have chosen to be owners, and a lot of the ones that have not are relatively new employees because we've hired a number of people lately, so I think a lot of them will become owners. But we give people that option. So for some people, they love thinking and acting like an owner, but they don't necessarily want to be an owner. For other people, they buy the minimum purchase once, and they just want to be an owner, but it's not a huge financial commitment to them. For others, we have 2 times per year that you can buy stock. For them, it's, oh, I'm on a program and I buy stock, you know, pretty much every time I have an opportunity. And then for other people that, you know, there's an occasional, okay, I'm going to make a big investment now because I think our company's going places and, you know, I want to make a bigger investment. And, you know, typically our top leaders tend to be the largest owners, but it's not exactly that way. You know, we have one consultant who's just, you know, he's very serious about employee ownership. And then we have one of our top leaders that's not as serious as maybe some other people. But generally, the top leaders are very engaged. And so you know, we have very low turnover. And the other thing is just being able to attract and keep the kind of people we want. You know, we just want to be the kind of place that if a really talented person has a couple of choices of where they want to go to work, we want them to choose Cargas if we've made them a job offer. So, you know, kind of in the, other than tumultuous times like after 9/11, it's just been very, you know, it's a reinforcement. It's just an integral part of who we are and what we do. Yes?
You mentioned earlier that prior to starting your own company, there were certain aspects that you took notes of about what you want in your own business. What were some of those aspects and how did you go about implementing them?
Good question. I think a lot of it starts with the whole openness kind of thing. In a lot of companies, you don't really know what's going on, okay? Because the leaders kind of play it very close to the vest. So you don't know if sales are increasing or decreasing. Or, you know, you don't know if you're making money or not, or if the company's making a lot of money or, you know, losing a lot of money or whatever. I think a lot of owners, when things are going great, they don't want their employees to know how much money they're taking out of the business. And, you know, when things are going horribly, they don't want employees to know how bad it is because they're afraid they'll jump ship. So there, you know, there are reasons why owners tend not to want their employees to know what's going on. And that just always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, you know? It's like if you're expected to be dedicated to a company, shouldn't you know what's going on? So some of it's just simple stuff like that. So, and the thing is, what we found is when you are honest and open and you don't try to slant the story. I mean, some people think they're being honest because technically what they said, you know, can't be proven absolutely wrong, so then they feel okay about it. Well, we try to put the proper, you know, framework around something. So, you know, when things are really bad, everybody in the company knows they're really bad. Now, you know, part of the responsibility of being a leader, I think, is to, even when things are really bad, you have to have a plan for how you're going to make them better again. So, I mean, part of the story is, okay, here's our situation. Here's how much money we lost this past month. Here's some of the reasons behind it. Here's what we're doing to fix this. Does anybody else have any other ideas of what we should be doing? And if you have the right trusting environment and people really want to, like working in this environment, then they, you know, will, rather than say, oh my gosh, the company's going down the tubes, I better be looking for a job, they're saying, boy, we got to work harder and figure out how to fix this, okay? So those were some of the things. The other thing is, I think in some companies, there's such a mystery around salaries, and there's this undertone of, well, I think this person over here makes a whole lot more than I do, and they don't do as much, and you can't eliminate that totally. But we've really tried to lay out our programs very simply and clearly on how they work, and then we try to live those programs to the best of our ability. So, so for example, and we also try to keep things very simple, because the more complex stuff is, the harder it is for everybody to understand, the more time you need to spend trying to understand it. So, so for example, our compensation program, it's got 3 pieces, okay? It's got salary, and we say right up front, our salaries are meant to be competitive, not high, not low. We're not looking to stand out on salaries and be either a salary leader or a laggard. We're looking to be competitive. So that's one piece that we're not looking to stand out from the crowd. The other 2 pieces, we are looking to stand out from the crowd, and that is profit sharing, which is spread among all full-time employees, and it's all done by formula. There's no management discretion. So that's the very egalitarian, Chip grew up in the 60s, power to the people kind of compensation program, because we're spreading the wealth very broadly. And then there's bonus, which is much more focused on people who are driving outstanding success. But what we do is we have this thing called our teamwork booklet, and we very rarely print a physical copy of it, but occasionally for things like this, I want a little show and tell item, so we printed this out. But this is 24 pages, half of which talks about the history and the culture and whatnot, and then the other half is compensation and benefits. And in 24 pages, you can have a pretty good idea of what our company's all about by looking at this. And it's available from our website, and if you look at the handout you have, there's a career opportunities side of the handout. At the bottom, it says, go to the careers page on our website, and that's called the teamwork booklet. So you can download this teamwork booklet if you're interested in some of the details. But we've honed this thing for 25 years, just trying to be very clear of, okay, here's how compensation works, and here are the programs, and then we try to actually live this rather than, oh, well, we got to make an exception for so-and-so because they scream the loudest, but we don't need to pay this guy over here because he's not going to go anywhere. We try not to fall into that trap that a lot of companies fall into. So those are some of the things that, and a lot of these things, we start, we try, we adjust, we refine. Every year, at least once a year, we read through this whole teamwork booklet word for word and say, is there anything that could be made simpler, could be made clearer, can be fairer, And so those are some of the things that, I saw what was going on in other companies. And it's not only me, it was me at the beginning, but that didn't last very long. Fortunately, the concepts attracted a bunch of people who think the same way and wanted to take this company places. So it's like, I'm just the founder, and I kind of put that framework together. After that, it's a whole bunch of other people and all of us working together and all of us trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to operate here in the real world but have some values that really mean something? Other questions, comments, thoughts? Anything? Yes?
So you said when you first started out, it was just you kind of working on your own. Like, I can imagine having an established company and then building it from there, but I'm curious as to how, you go from one person to the first employee besides you and those first couple of years where you're kind of forming the company and the culture, everything. What did that look like?
Yeah. Well, I started thinking about starting the company probably a year and a half before I actually started it. And I started to kind of frame some things out. So this teamwork booklet, the predecessor to the teamwork booklet was like 4 loose leaf pages. And those were actually all written before I started the company, even before I was thinking about hiring employees, because I just wanted to make sure the proper framework was in place so that when I got to the point of well, first of all, it's to keep my head clear. And then secondly, when I got to hiring employee number 2, that it was clearly laid out. So starting out, I had exactly 0 customers. And I just, back in those days, there wasn't email, there wasn't, I had a little desk in the corner of the bedroom. I had a little Macintosh computer with a 9-inch screen. And I had an answering machine. Anybody know what an answering machine is? It's actually a physical machine you have there on your desk. And I had a dot matrix printer, okay? So it was actually pretty cool. It was Mac, So anyway, but I got from the Lancaster Chamber of Commerce, I got a list of local companies, and I figured, I had done, at my previous job, I had done kind of a little side project of doing some consulting to help streamline some things. So it's like, well, I can do this for other companies here locally. So I just went down and I'd pick out companies that I thought were big enough that they could afford my services, but small enough that they may not have had a really strong team. So like 100 employee companies. And I just would pick out 20 a week and I'd send letters, actual physical letters printed out on my little dot matrix printer. And then I would just get on the phone, calling until I could actually get a hold of somebody, first of all. And then secondly, trying to get an appointment with somebody. So, it took 1 month of working, most of which was on the phone, to get the first customer, which actually probably was pretty quick. I just, lucked out maybe. And then, started doing work for that customer and kept trying to add more customers. I think most of the work done in the first 6 months was for two customers. And then started to build a little more momentum. And it was probably about 9 months in that I hired employee number 2, moved to a little one-room office, was like 20 feet by 20 feet, and just a room. And it was above the district justice office on Oregon Pike in Lancaster, so we'd see people coming in to be arraigned in leg irons and stuff like that. But we kind of went from there, and we built up some consulting, and then after, it was about a little over a year in, we thought, well, instead of working on all these different systems, maybe it would be better to have like one software program that we were experts at, and we got hooked up with a company that did an accounting program for small businesses that ran on a Macintosh, so we started selling that, and one thing led to another. So that's kind of the early going there. It was just a whole lot of, nose to the grindstone, try to make sales, try to do a great job for customers, and just kind of leverage it a little bit at a time. So does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right. Others? Yes.
Mentors. Did you have mentors as you started the business, and did you have a mentoring program in the company?
Mentors, yeah. I didn't have like any one person, I would say, that was a mentor. I had a number of people that I knew I could talk with, and anytime I had the opportunity to talk with anybody who ever started a company, I would probably be annoyingly questioning of, trying to understand, okay, how did you do this, and how did, just the same kind of question you just asked. How do you get started? What did you have to do? So it was, but it wasn't like, some people end up with, I had this one person that was my mentor and they really helped guide me through. With me, it was a little more of a combination of a number of people that I had the opportunity to talk with. And as far as us having a mentoring program, we don't have anything that we sort of publish widely, but we do have a couple of people in our organization that we're kind of grooming for bigger things. And so we do have some things going on. There's, one particular person that I meet with on a frequent basis, and we, kind of talk about bigger things and how their career can advance and some things like that. So we're actually a little more formal with kind of top, at least the, at the top tier within our company than maybe I had when I was getting started. Yes?
Your sales region, is it, how far are you going? And when you talk about the future, that you're prepping your business for the future, how are you doing that? How are you preparing for future business?
Okay. Our sales region, I'll take you through the history here, actually. So at the beginning, it was Lancaster County, and that went on for, well, I don't know, probably a couple of years. I think just about all our customers were in Lancaster County at the beginning. And then there was a point in the early 90s, 1993 to be exact, we hooked up with a company called Great Plains Software from Fargo, North Dakota. It's great being in Fargo this time of year, by the way. Many of us took many a trip to Fargo in very cold weather. Anyway, Great Plains had software, accounting and business management software that ran on the Macintosh, but also ran on PCs. And this was the early days of Windows, and it was very clunky and all that kind of stuff. But it was obvious that Windows was the growing, thing, and for business use anyway, in an accounting setting, it seemed like the place to be as opposed to the Macintosh. So when we got hooked up with Great Plains, suddenly we had software that would work for larger companies. And we also had a good relationship with Great Plains because they would refer companies to us. And so we started to branch out, probably surrounding counties to Lancaster County. And then over the next couple of years, a lot of it was focused, I would say, in the southeastern quadrant of Pennsylvania. So this went on into the, early, I don't know how long you might say that it would have gone on. Well, after 2000 anyway. And then we got hooked up with another company somewhat similar to ours out in Pittsburgh, and they had not adopted some of the newer technologies that we were into, and they were much smaller than we were. And, they were looking for a way to, not be a separate business anymore. So we talked and we worked out in a way to merge them into our company. So that got us like 100 Pittsburgh customers all in one fell swoop. So then we really had a geography of the state of Pennsylvania, you might say, although most of the customers were in and around Pittsburgh and sort of southeastern Pennsylvania. And Microsoft, because of their territories, Microsoft ended up buying Great Plains Software. Because of the way they did territories, it was kind of a nice, tidy thing to serve the Pennsylvania area. Then when we started our own software in 8.5 years ago, it's like, okay, we're designing software. We want the initial customers to be very close to home because it takes a while to get the software refined. You always, there's problems. Anybody deal with version 1 software problems? There's always version 1 software problems, regardless. So we wanted those to be close to home. So we sold our first energy customer, the heating oil and propane delivery. That was down in the Philly area. And then I think our first 6 or 8 customers were all in kind of southeastern Pennsylvania. And then as we got the software more refined, we were more refined on how we could do the consulting to implement the software and support it and all that kind of stuff. We started branching out. We started going to trade shows. There's a trade show down in Atlantic City that kind of covers a multi-state area. There's a bunch of things up in the New England area. There's a whole lot of heating oil in the northeastern U.S. So between going to these trade shows, and then getting more leads from our website, we got to the point where now most of our energy customers are, I would say, from Maryland up through New England. So that's kind of a primary region. But we have, from internet leads, we have, one in Kansas, one in Oregon, a couple in South Carolina or South and North Carolina. So we're, we actually have a company we're trying to sell in Hawaii that delivers propane all over Hawaii. So it's, with the internet, you have a further reach. Because it's business software and we're really set up for the US at this stage of the game, it's basically the US. So you could say the whole US is our market area. However, the areas we focus on most are Maryland up through New England, but we're starting to go more down into Virginia, North Carolina. So we're looking to kind of, in a contiguous fashion, just sort of branch out. Because to get into a new area, it's not only, oh, gee, we're going to do some advertising there. There's trade associations you need to go there. There's trade shows you need to exhibit at, and you need enough people to do all this stuff. So yeah, but the ultimate, I won't say ultimate, but over the coming years, I would say we will broaden out to be pretty much all of the U.S., I would say. And a lot of these things are, you take one step at a time. You figure it out one step into the future. You start to execute on that. You see how that's going. Then you think further, and it's like, okay, well, what's the next logical thing to do? So, you can start with one person, and at this point in time, we're 54 people, and at some future point in time, we'll be 100 people. But it's all one step at a time. So, yes. Does the growth bring problems with the openness in communication? I think the challenge has been to kind of rework communications as we get bigger. One of the problems, I'll call this an out-and-out problem we had was, we had this core business selling other people's software and helping implement it. And then we started this little energy business, it was just a couple of people to start with. So, and then that got bigger and bigger and bigger. It still needed a lot of investment. So, when you're selling other people's software, guess what? Microsoft pays for all that product development time. When you're selling your own software, guess what? We have to pay for all our product development time, which mainly means paying people to develop the software. So, and it, as a lot of things, you're getting something new, you're not quite sure what you're doing, you're figuring out as you go, you think it's going to take this much effort, and it takes that much effort, and, you thought you could get this many sales, but you only got that many. And so there became a lot of strain, and there was strain between the two they weren't business units yet. And there was strain over two things, really. One thing was, should we be putting this much money into our own software? This seems like a black hole. You keep saying we're about to turn the corner, and we don't turn the corner. So there was that feeling, and we had kind of one group of people that are saying, oh, we should invest more, we should do more because this is a great thing. And then we had other people saying, well, I'm not so sure, it's taken so long, and so you had that kind of thing going on. And then on top of that, we had been organized by functions. So basically, sales and marketing handled sales and marketing for our core business of selling other people's software and selling our energy software. Consulting did consulting on both, and so forth down the line. And then you end up with some people really wanted to be on energy, some people really wanted to be on the core business. And, there were strong opinions, and the top people were pretty much evenly divided on should we reorganize so that we have an energy business unit with its own sales and marketing, with its own operations, et cetera, and then a separate, what we now call business solutions. Should we have those two business units, or should we just keep going like this? We were pretty much evenly divided down the line. I was on one side of that question. The number two person was on the other side of the question. You got down a level beyond that, it was pretty much evenly divided. So occasionally the CEO, I try not to force too many decisions. I try to build consensus and kind of get the group to agree and all that kind of stuff. But every once in a while it's like, all right, we've got to do one or the other. We we need to move. So, made the decision, we are going to reorganize. So simultaneously, when we reorganized, the people who thought we shouldn't were pleasantly surprised that it actually worked extremely well, because we got more focus on each business unit, and we got people into jobs that they liked better. So that kind of smoothed a bunch of stuff over. And then probably took a little bit longer, but we started to get more traction with the energy business, and actually, after only 8.5 years, now the energy business is a little bigger than the core business. So we're still, we're on a very, if you see a graph of our sales in the energy business unit, it's up, up, up. In business solutions, the other side, there was a big dip with the Great Recession, but now we've turned that one around, and that one's going up too. So people are feeling good now, but boy, we had a lot of turmoil. We also had some people who were strongly, we had some folks who really thought we were not investing enough, and they were unhappy with the organizational structure. Some very talented people, but they ended up leaving. We also had some people who thought we were investing too much, and they didn't like the idea that they had to work on both kinds of projects. They only wanted to work on the core projects. We had somebody leave there, and a couple of customers followed him to the place that he went to, and I blame myself for not making the decision sooner to split these two business units, because that guy would probably still be with us and doing some great work for our customers as one of Cargas instead of somebody else. So those are some of the things, and some of it has to do with just growth, but some of it has to do with the changes that come with growth, whereby, it used to be all one kind of thing that you do. Now you're doing two kinds of things, and how do you organize your company so that there's enough commonality and the commonality really comes here. It comes in the shared success and our core values of teamwork, customer care, employee ownership. That's where the commonality comes in. But beyond that, we have different market areas. Business solutions is the state of Pennsylvania. Energy is much larger. We have different kind of companies we're calling on. Business solutions, it's basically anybody that uses accounting, which is pretty much any company in our size range. Energy, it's a very specific set of companies. There are so many companies, and we can get a list of what those companies are that sell propane and heating oil. So, did that explain it? Okay. It's been fun, but it's been hard at times. All right, what else? Yes?
What steps have you taken to share your success with the community?
I guess sharing success with the community kind of comes in two flavors. One is just kind of sharing our story, which I'm always happy to tell the story. In case you can't tell, I'm really excited about what we do at our company. So some of it is just, and we do have, it's interesting, one of our sizable energy customers, the owner and CEO, reached out to me a couple weeks ago and said, hey, we've been trying to get on the best places to work list in Pennsylvania for a number of years. We've got our survey results back every year from where our employees get surveyed. We've been notching up our scores, but we have never made the list. And you guys are on the list every year. Will you share, can we go out to lunch together? And, will you share some of the things that you guys do to try, to be a great place to work? So he and I are having lunch, I think it's next Thursday or something like that, and we'll talk about some of the things that we try to do that. So some of the sharing with the community is, I think we've developed a business model that we believe in. It works for us. There's kind of some prerequisites though to making it work, and that would be, you need to be comfortable being open, honest, trusting your employees, some things like that. But if you can do that, you can make this model work. So some of the sharing with the community comes in that form. The other sharing is now that, as we've gained a little bit of size, we started doing this thing called Spring Rendezvous, That's kind of our signature fundraiser. You know, we do a lot of small things in the community supporting this, you know, program or that program, but we've zeroed in on kind of one signature event called Spring Rendezvous, and it's, you know, it's on a Saturday night from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Yes, there is food and beverage, and we do have a beer committee at our company too. So they take care of the beverage part of that, at least part of the beverage part. There's the wine drinkers as well. But anyway, but that, it's a silent auction, live auction, fun time, food, drink. Last year we had, I think, 50-ish people at the event. We have it at our office. It's just, you know, it's a fun time. And we pick a local nonprofit who we think is doing some great work that changes people's lives. So this year we've picked Milagro House. It's a place for homeless mothers with their kids that they can come. Most of them come from abusive relationships, and they go to Milagro House. They typically live there for 6 months to a year, and they get their lives back in order. Sometimes there's education involved. A lot of them get, you know, more education, become a nurse, whatever, and, you know, so they do great work. There's a bunch of great organizations. We also supported Thaddeus Stevens College in Lancaster for 1 year for our fundraiser. But that's a thing where, you know, we can have fun, we can raise money. We raised $18,000 last year for, you know, the cause, and you know, and we can kind of give back to the community a little bit. So those are some of the things that we do. And what time do we need to wrap up here? That's my next question. About now. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening and asking great questions. I appreciate it. Thanks, and I hope you've learned something. Thank you. All right.
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Okay.
This is our thank you to